What an international break that was. Whatever about beating Portugal 2-0, that Troy Parrott goal at the death to still gives a chance of reaching the World Cup next summer is something I haven't experienced as an Irish football fan for the last couple of years. I'm still smiling thinking about that goal, and as sad as I am to see the back of that international break, we do have to shift our focus back to FPL. So in today's video I'm going to show you my transfer plans and team selection ahead of the Game Week 12 deadline. We also have the news that Gabriel is set to be sidelined for the next month or so we're going to take a look at my top replacement for Gabriel. And after the Saka captaincy success in Game Week 11, there's a big chance I go against Erling Haaland on the captaincy once again. So let's see where I end up on the captaincy. We've lots to discuss. Let's get into the video. What is up everyone, how's it going? FPL Era here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. 70 likes on the video is the goal as always, and if you have any questions ahead of the Game Week 12 deadline, drop them in the comments below. We are also on the road to 10k subs, so if you are watching and you haven't subscribed, do us a solid, head on down there, click subscribe and help me on my way to hitting that milestone. Here's a quick reminder how we got on in Game Week 11, so if you don't care how we got on last week, this is your warning to skip on towards the end of the video. Presumably the Gabriel replacement segment, but anyway, back to Game Week 11, this is how we got on last week. 51 points of the week. We're going to start off with that Saka captaincy haul. 24 points from the armband. I did think it was a risk worth taking going Saka for the armband. Thankfully it paid off massively. Saka also coming away with DEFCON for a cheeky little bonus in the 90th minute. So 24 points from the armband. But then on to Erling Haaland on that Sunday against Liverpool at home. As I said, I did think it was a risk worth taking. Easily could have backfired. Of course, Haaland missed that penalty and he did come away with a goal in the end, but he finished off on 4 points. So +8 from going Saka captaincy, and I'm glad I did do that. And there's a big chance I am going to go against Haaland on the captaincy this week, so we'll chat about that later on in the video. All in all, it was a great week in Game Week 11, another massive green arrow, and we're inside the top 100k, sitting at 92k overall. That's the review out of the way. Let's move on and start planning ahead for Game Week 12. So no messing about, we're getting straight into the team selection. I've got 2 free transfers available, and starting off with the defence, I've got Ryan Gold at home to Spurs in that North London derby. I'm actually going to be at that game in London on Sunday with thanks to Tops, so I'm looking forward to owning what would have been 3 players, but I am going to have 2 players now with that Gabriel injury, so I'm looking forward to seeing 2 players live in action with my FPL team. But of course we're going to start off with that Gabriel injury. He's set to be sidelined for the next month or even 2 months, so don't forget the games are coming thick and fast over this festive period. If Gabriel is set to be sidelined for at least a month, it'll see him miss 6 games in the Premier League in FPL, and if he misses 2 months, if he's sidelined for 2 months, he will be missing 10 games, so he won't be back until mid-January. So there's no question about it, he's an easy sell, and we'll chat about my replacements later on in the video. Going back to that Arsenal defence also, with that Gabriel injury, you'd expect the Arsenal defence to be in and around 100% effective ownership, probably even more. A lot of players, or a lot of managers I'm seeing on social media anyway, have the triple up on the Arsenal defence, so basically means that the Arsenal defence is pretty much null and void for my team. The Arsenal defence have been very good to myself and FPL managers all around the world, with 7 clean sheets in the opening 11 fixtures. But with Gabriel set to be sidelined for this long, I don't think they'll be putting up these numbers over the next couple of games, especially with Spurs and Chelsea over the next 2. So I don't think I'm going to be looking to double up on the Arsenal defence. So that pretty much takes the fun away of having an Arsenal defence. I'm going to be hoping they concede most weeks now, especially with Ryan goals. It's not going to be enjoyable hoping that they do concede. We'll chat about my Gabriel replacement later on in the video. On to the rest of my defence then. Of Senesi at home to West Ham. I do have Mukulele on the bench away to Fulham, but I do think I'm going to play Senesi with that home fixture. Bournemouth have only 4 clean sheets in the opening 11 games, but on 9 occasions this season, Senesi has come away with DEFCON, so you'd probably be expecting minimum return of 3 points from Senesi if he gets some DEFCON, and if Bournemouth concede twice. Probably hoping towards a 4-point return from Senesi, but let's see if he can get a clean sheet, or maybe even a cheeky return like he did earlier on the season. And then finishing off my 3-man defence, Munoz of Crystal Palace. If I didn't own Munoz, he'd be up there as one of my top replacements for Gabriel. 2 clean sheets since I brought him in the last 2 weeks. He's away to Wolves. Wolves are in serious bother, sitting at the bottom of the Premier League table with only 2 points in the open 11 fixtures. So I do think this is a game where Crystal Palace can capitalise and get some nice returns, and I do think Munoz can add to his attacking returns this season. That's the defence. Let's move on to the midfield. Moving on to my 5-man midfield, we're going to start off with the captaincy, and as you can see, I'm currently giving the armband to Saka. As I said, it will be at that Arsenal and Spurs game on Sunday, so I think it'd be rude not to give him the armband so I can cheer him on in person, especially after he did so well for me on the armband last week. Looking at Haaland, is it a risk going against Haaland? It probably is, but I do think it is a risk worth taking, especially when Man City are away to Newcastle. It's not the easiest of fixtures for City and Haaland. Looking at Haaland, he can probably get one goal or at least one goal, but I do think Saka can match this in the game on Sunday, probably even better it. And looking at Saka's record against Spurs, over the last 7 games, he's got 3 goals and 5 assists, so he has a good record for Arsenal in those games. So for now, the captaincy's on Saka, but let's see where it ends up before the deadline. Going through the rest of my midfield then, looking at Semenyo, he is yellow flagged ahead of the Game Week 12 deadline. He did leave the Ghana national team early with a suspected or rumoured injury. However, I think it was just a fact that because he did get engaged to his partner. So congratulations to Semenyo on that. I do think he will be fine for the West Ham game. And let's see if he can get a return to celebrate that engagement. On to the rest of my midfield then, starting off with Bruno Fernandes. He hasn't been returning massively over the last couple of weeks, but he has been returning consistently. And I do think this Everton game at home on Monday night is a game where Bruno Fernandes can return well. He scored a hat-trick against Armenia on Sunday, so if he wouldn't mind getting some points in FPL for my team, that would be great. But I do think he will do well in that Monday night's game. And then on to Ndai. Ndai is probably a player I'm sitting on the fence with. You could probably get rid of him looking at Everton's fixtures over the next couple of game weeks, but because of the fact he does have penalty duties, I think I am going to keep him and just wait until he goes to the African Cup of Nations to worry about getting rid of him. And then on to Sarr. Similar to Ndai, Sarr will also be going to AFCON, but Sarr has been very disappointing since I brought him into the team 2 weeks ago. He's doing very well in Europe. He's not returning in the Premier League. But looking at that Wolves fixture away from home, as I said, similar to Munoz, this is a game where Crystal Palace can capitalise on. Let's see if Sarr can finally get a return from my team since I brought him in. Erling Haaland and Mateta complete my starting 11. Starting off with Mateta, it means I'm on the triple up on the Crystal Palace assets once again this week. Surely this is the first week I'll get a full house of returns for my Crystal Palace assets with that Wolves fixture. If you are looking towards Mateta for the captaincy, he's not a bad shout at all. Wolves have conceded 25 goals in the opening 11 games, so I do think this is a game Mateta can do well in. Just fingers crossed himself and Sarr, and probably even Munoz can link up well for some returns in that game. And then on to Erling Haaland, 14 goals for the big Norwegian in the opening 11 games. I got very lucky going against him on the captaincy last week. I'm considering it, or probably am going to captain Saka this week, so I am going to go against him this week. Not looking forward to it. He is going to be over 100% effective ownership once again. I won't get as lucky with him missing a penalty. I do think he will get at least one return in that Newcastle game. Let's just hope he can just keep it at one return. I do think Newcastle can keep him quiet. That might be famous last words. And then looking towards Sunday, hopefully Saka can get a nice haul in that North London derby when I'll see it in person and I can cheer him on. So looking at my transfer plans, I have 2 free transfers available, and with that Gabriel injury, of course, I'm going to have to sort it out. So I'm looking towards taking out Gabriel and bringing in Van Dijk. I already have Munoz of Crystal Palace, so I don't need to worry about bringing him in. And I already have Raya for some Arsenal defensive cover. And with Gabriel sidelined, I'm not too fussed about bringing in a second Arsenal defensive asset. It's going to be a weird time in FPL. As I said earlier, I'm expecting Arsenal to be in and around, or the Arsenal defence, to be in and around 100% effective ownership. So with me just owning one Arsenal defender, Raya and goals, I'm going to be hoping they concede every week. That's the joys of FPL. Anyway, back to my transfer in this week. I'm looking towards bringing in Van Dijk. Looking at Liverpool's fixtures, they have a great run of fixtures over the next 8 or 9 game weeks or so, especially over the next 4 game weeks. They're up against West Ham, Nottingham Forest, Leeds and Sunderland over the next 4 games. I spoke it into existence when I brought in Gabriel a couple of weeks ago that he was finally going to get his first attacking return of the season, and lo and behold, that week he got his attacking return against Newcastle. So this is the week I'm bringing in Van Dijk. I'm going to speak his attacking return into existence. He's going to get his attacking return against Nottingham Forest. Liverpool, they've been very disappointing on the defensive front, only 3 clean sheets all season. Van Dijk has been ticking along okay with the DEFCON. Pretty good, to be fair. That's probably a bit harsh saying okay, but he's got 6 DEFCON in the opening 11 games. So 6 games getting it, 5 games where he hasn't. But I do think over this run of games, he can get some DEFCON and some consistent clean sheets. Fingers crossed for that attacking return this weekend. So there you have it. There's my Game Week 12 team selection. I haven't brought in Van Dijk just yet. Van Dijk doesn't look like rising anytime soon, or Gabriel doesn't look like falling anytime soon, so I can probably wait until Friday before making my move. The good news is the fact that Van Dijk fell in price just before the Game Week 11 deadline, so it's going to be nice to get him at 5.9 million. And then also we're still waiting for an update on Semenyo. I think he will be fine for the weekend's games, but if Semenyo is going to be out, I've got enough money in the bank. I've got 8.3 million, so I can bring in Gakpo for that Nottingham Forest game and load up on some Liverpool assets for that favourable fixture run. Just a little announcement also, I will be filming with Tops outside the Emirates on Sunday, so if you do see me outside the ground, call over and say hello. I will have some Tops Premier League trading cards on me to give away, so if you do see me, call over for the chat. If you have made it to the end of this video, please give it a like, drop a comment below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's hit a like goal of 70 likes on this video and send in any questions ahead of the Game Week 12 deadline in the comments below. We are also on the road to 10k. I'm going to have to say it once more, but we are on the road to 10k subscribers. If you are still watching and you haven't subscribed, head on down there, click subscribe on the channel, and help me on my way to hitting that milestone. I'll see you all on Saturday afternoon for a Game Week 12 deadline stream. Thanks for watching. Best of luck for the week.